and go ahead.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big Ideas on the Go. Glad to have all of you with us. Today, as our guest, we have Darryl Peek. Darryl runs federal strategic relationships for Google Cloud. Darryl, welcome to Big Ideas on the Go. Thrilled to have you. Maybe just to get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your role at Google.
Thank you so much, Dimitri, and I'm glad to be on today. Great to be on the Big ID podcast. As Dimitri said, I am with Google Cloud Public Sector. I'm the head of federal strategic partnerships, and I've been with Google for about a year. But a little bit about my background is started out as an engineer, actually 2 engineering degrees from Pitt and Penn State. So I started in defense contracting with Lockheed Martin. There, I fell in love with really just bringing solutions to the market in support of the warfighter. So being able to talk about satellites and unmanned air vehicles was a very cool thing to do in my 20s. And it just continued to advance from there. I will say that it has been fun doing service industry, both for a large defense contractor and also a mid-tier, and then going into government. So spending a little time in government at the Department of Homeland Security in their cybersecurity area, as well as helping to stand up the CTO's office as the Director of Digital Innovation and Solutions. So running shared services across the department. And then just wanted to get back into private industry. So decided to go into the product space and started out at Salesforce for about 2 years and then moved to Google Cloud. So as far as when we talk about partnerships, it's something that I'm very passionate about. I think that as we look to advance government and modernize government, it is a partnership that is required. So for me, that means working with federal system integrators and technology partners in order to implement Google Cloud solutions to really solve government mission use cases. So what does that mean? We're looking at not only productivity, but also infrastructure modernization, application development, data management, smart analytics, as well as machine learning. Those are some things that are critical use cases, some of our core capability, and definitely part of the heritage of Google and Google Cloud.
And are you still focused on the warfighter, or do you also kind of deal with the civilian agencies in addition to kind of the defense ones?
Absolutely. So I started my career at Lockheed Martin. However, currently, the verticals that I support are civilian agencies, the DoD, the intelligence community, as well as federal system integrators and tribes and casinos. So more a very broad portfolio, but we really are interested in artificial intelligence, machine learning use cases, as well as doing a lot around data management, and smart analytics.
Okay. Now, I noticed that you also have one more kind of appellation to add to your kind of background, which is around the American Council for Technology Industry Advisory Council, ACT IAC, a little bit of a mouthful. So what is that, and why does it matter, and why did you join it?
So ACT has a public-private partnership organization that's been around for about 40 years, pulling together government and industry collaborators to really solve mission outcomes. Some of the key areas of focus are around education, so doing a lot of professional development, leadership, providing thought leadership for a number of government use cases, as well as collaboration. So doing events and various public-private partnership opportunities across the board. The reason that I started to work with ACT-IAC was many moons ago when I was a Voyager through their professional development program. And what it did was it paired us up with government employees in order to really learn use cases around leadership, around teamwork, around collaboration, and driving towards outcomes. So that really just got me involved in it. And then I stayed involved through helping to plan various events, helping to lead various professional development programs, and then most recently joining the board. The board is really amazing because it's really doubling down on the partnerships that we have with industry as well as with government. And we're able to produce papers. We actually do a number of large events, including the Executive Leadership Council Conference, which is called ELC, coming up this November, as well as a Health Innovation Conference, Acquisition Excellence, as well as Igniting Innovation. We do have a number of Federal Insight Exchange where we work directly with government decision makers in order to talk about use cases that you're trying to solve, whether it's around transportation, healthcare, national security, or other topics.
That's amazing. And so obviously now with you being on the board and plus your kind of day job at Google and helping organizations deal with some of these kind of generational transformations, what are you seeing? You mentioned earlier some departments like Department of Transportation and Department of Defense but you also mentioned AI and other kind of artifacts. Like when people talk about digital transformation in the federal space, and you're providing that kind of leadership guidance, where are you guiding them? Like, what are you trying to help them achieve?
Right. So that's an excellent question, and one that I was trying to solve while I was in government, and now I am assisting thought leaders and change agents that are currently in government. And really, it is, what is the outcome? What is our marching order, and what strategic outcomes are we trying to achieve from a mission or priority perspective? Of course, when I was at Homeland, we had a cybersecurity mission. We had ensuring that the borders were protected. We had another one that talked about really immigration reform and a number of others that we had to address. And it's saying, well, how do we provide solutions to enhance the experience of the stakeholders that are dependent upon our services? So whether that is a product that we are providing, like US Visit, is that a solution that we need for legislation? Those are all areas that we were looking to address in government. So right now, we're seeing a lot of conversation around healthcare. Of course, the pandemic has been very impactful across the nation. So how do we best serve the citizen, and how do we make sure that their information is taken care of in a meaningful way, and we are respecting privacy? Also, another priority is that we're seeing is around sustainability. How do we create opportunities to have not only being carbon neutral, but also carbon free for the services that we provide from a technological standpoint? And then as we look at equity, inclusion, and unity, how do we start addressing some of those use cases that are happening across the board, and bring technology as a opportunity to reduce the barrier of entry, to say, how do we have these critical discussions, create transparency, and become more predictive in the outcomes that we're trying to achieve?
That's great. Now, maybe we could kind of double click a little bit on the data protection. You talked about information protection in healthcare specifically. And obviously, the shift to the cloud means that you're going to have to reorient your thinking. And data protection is near and dear to the BigID heart, because it's kind of core to our kind of mission as well. So maybe talk a little bit about kind of what you recommend to organizations and around data visibility and control in the cloud.
Right. So one of the things that we talk about in this, when migration to the cloud has a lot of different factors to it. You have the application side, of course, you have the data side. And the one area that we would like to talk about initially is, what do you have? So being able to do the inventory to say, okay, what are the data assets that you're using for these particular applications or particular use cases, and how do you plan to move them forward? And also, what are the particular outcomes that you're trying to achieve, whether that is saying, okay, well, you want to make it available on a smartphone, or you want to make it available through multiple channels. So those are things that we are definitely looking at. So when we think about how we handle the contact center, when we think about how we handle digitization of documents, when we think about even how we interact from a voice perspective, those are areas where we're saying, well, what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve? And then once you have that outcome, what are the assets that you have now? Right. So being able to say, okay, well, I have these applications, I invested in this cloud, I invested in these resources in order to transform my environment. And then saying, what are some of the gaps? So yes, you may have migrated to the cloud, you might have been a lift and shift model, but are you truly transforming to that next generation outcome that you're trying to achieve? And then what are some of the insights that are missing? What are some of the factors that are missing? What are some of the requirements that have not been addressed? One of the things that we like to focus on is being very agile in our approach. So how do we create feedback from our various stakeholders and users in order for us to make sure that solution is actually meeting a need and not just doing technology for technology's sake? So being careful in what we do. And then how do you measure the outcome? So being able to have measures of success, various KPIs, in order to say we have achieved a goal that we were setting out to accomplish.
And are there differences in architecture? Obviously, with the cloud, you have a much more fluid environment. You could have different kind of workloads. You could have different data centers in different regions, and you deal with different kinds of sensitive data. So does it require a rethink to accommodate Kubernetes and the kind of different ways you build and run in the cloud?
Absolutely. So you can have a monolithic approach where you utilize a cloud for everything, right? And that definitely does not create certain opportunities for you to leverage multi and hybrid cloud approaches. But one of the things that we are seeing is being able to create an open architecture where you are able to pull data from various assets in order to create some level of outcome. So being able to focus those architectures on the environments and workloads that are associated to that particular environment. And then I would say that, and then finding a solution that aggregates all that data together, because really it's about the outcome and how do we enhance the customer experience. So being able to do that is saying, well, what is the transparency that needs to be created for the decision maker, and how do we put that information in the hands that they move from a reactive position to a more predictive position. So as far as the approach, whether a organization uses an architecture to go from a monolithic approach to a hybrid cloud approach, or even a multi-cloud approach, that is something that is done in part and parcel with that particular customer. So that's one of the things that we keep into account.
And are you seeing adoption? You know, you talk about multi-cloud, right? Is that the way forward for most organizations, or do people want the homogeneity and consistency of a single cloud solution?
I think that is definitely the approach. We actually see a significant amount of investment in the cloud, not only through the market research of seeing, well, what agencies are doing in their shift to the cloud, but also just as far as where the market is going. A lot of solutions are built on top of cloud solutions. And as agencies look to adopt certain applications or certain platforms, they are inheriting certain cloud outcomes. Now, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that what are some of the points of diminishing returns? When you continue to make investments, when you spread your architecture so far that you're unable to maintain it and you create cloud sprawl, how are you able to reel that in? So that is really the focus of the architects, and being able to have strong architects on your team and strong resources on your team really do help to achieve those specific outcomes.
So, you know, maybe last question, and maybe kind of the easiest question: how much is the federal government embracing the cloud? You know, I think there's been a lot of talk about it. Are we making that transformation right now?
I think we are, but there's a lot of work to do. There are certain agencies that are truly leaning in to invest in the cloud, and we're seeing that, and those are being reported. You have agencies like HHS, DHS, USDA, and others who are making significant investments, but you also have some agencies that are making progress. So meaning that they're still trying to understand, one, their own infrastructure. So doing the inventory to baseline, and then saying, well, is it the best thing for us from an economic perspective, and also from a solution perspective to move to the cloud? So there are some agencies that just don't have the resources to support cloud migration. So if they have developers who are developing in older technologies, how much would it take for them to really understand and leverage cloud solutions? So that's one of the things that we are seeing. But overall, I think that there is a strong adoption. We're seeing it across the board in federal as well as in DoD. So really excited to see the transformation that's taking place. We're glad to see the thought leaders out of BIU and others, and looking forward to doing more across federal.
Okay, wonderful. Darryl, thank you for coming on our show. Great to hear kind of how federal government is changing, both in terms of reuse and in terms of scale that's kind of offered up by cloud. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your experiences. So thank you again. And for our audience, I'd just like to remind you to please leave comments and reviews wherever you download and listen to your podcast. And one last time, Darryl, thank you very much for joining us. And to the audience, thank you. And we will talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Thank you, Dimitri.
Bye-bye.